Have you ever found yourself talking too much in a conversation, trying to make a point, only to realize you've revealed more than you intended? Or perhaps you've been in a situation where someone else's silence made you uncomfortable, and in trying to fill the void, they revealed more than you could have imagined? What if I told you that silence, not words, could be your most powerful tool in life, business, and relationships? Imagine using silence strategically, not just to avoid conflict, but as a way to gain control of a situation, to understand the deeper motives of others, and to create opportunities without ever needing to say a word. Today, we're going to dive into how silence can actually be your most effective weapon, a tool that not only protects you, but gives you a quiet yet powerful edge over others. Silence is often misunderstood as a passive act, but in reality, is an active, strategic move that reveals more than words ever could. Think about it. When you choose to stay silent, you open up the space for others to speak. They begin to fill that silence, often giving away information they would never have volunteered otherwise. This is exactly how silence becomes a tool of power, whether in a high-stakes negotiation, a delicate conversation, or even a personal relationship. The right silence at the right moment can shift the entire dynamic in your favor. Before we get deeper into how you can start using this power in your own life, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our weekly videos. And if this video resonates with you, don't hesitate to hit the super thanks button to show your support. It helps us keep bringing you content like this. Let's jump straight into it. How can silence not only protect, but empower you? Stay tuned. Imagine for a moment that true power doesn't come from how much you speak, but from how well you control your silence. It sounds counterintuitive, right? In a world where talking is often seen as a sign of confidence and control, remaining silent might seem like a weakness. But in reality, silence can be a potent tool for gaining influence, understanding others, and maintaining control in situations where words may only complicate things. One of the most notable figures to understand the power of silence was Niccolò Machiavelli, a man whose thoughts on power, politics, and strategy have resonated through centuries. In his work, Machiavelli didn't just highlight the importance of what to say, but also the immense value of knowing when not to speak. Silence, as he demonstrated, isn't just a lack of noise, it's a strategic decision that can shape the course of events in ways words cannot. Machiavelli, known for his works such as The Prince and Discourses, recognized that in a world filled with power struggles, silence was not only an essential tool in the art of war, but also in political maneuvering, leadership, and interpersonal influence. He understood that words, though powerful, can often reveal too much, expose weaknesses, or give away intentions that could later be used against you. In contrast, silence allows you to maintain control over the flow of information, allowing you to observe, calculate, and wait for the right moment to act. In today's world, where information is often as valuable as currency, and where opinions are frequently broadcast across social media platforms, silence is more important than ever. Our culture glorifies constant communication, and we often feel compelled to fill any silence with words. Whether it's in business meetings, personal relationships, or online discussions, there's a pressure to speak up, to make your presence known. Yet, Machiavelli's teachings remind us that silence, when used strategically, can provide a greater advantage than incessantly speaking. The question we must ask ourselves is, how can we apply the art of silence in our own lives to gain influence and achieve our goals? How can we use silence not as a sign of weakness, but as a deliberate tool to hold power, observe the actions of others, and stay one step ahead? In exploring Machiavelli's view on silence, we delve into his philosophy about the control of information. Silence is not a passive act, but rather an active choice to withhold information at crucial moments, allowing others to speak first and reveal their plans or intentions. This is a concept that resonates not just in the political or military realms, but in everyday life. Consider how, In a business negotiation, the quiet individual often controls the conversation without needing to say much. By listening carefully and not rushing to offer an opinion, they can gather valuable insights that others unknowingly provide when they fill the silence with unnecessary words. This controlled silence is a form of mastery, showing others that you do not need to prove yourself by speaking all the time. Take, for example, the classic negotiation tactic of silence. Anyone who has ever been in a high-stakes deal knows that one of the most powerful strategies is to remain silent when the other party is speaking. It's in those quiet moments that the other side often reveals more than they intended. They may offer concessions, provide additional details, or even show their cards out of impatience. As the silent party, you simply wait, not feeling the need to fill the void with words. This strategy often works because people tend to feel uncomfortable with silence. They believe that the absence of words requires them to say something, anything, to break the tension. By staying quiet, you gain the advantage of seeing how the other party reacts under pressure, allowing you to make more informed decisions. This dynamic plays out not only in negotiations, but in leadership and everyday interactions. A leader who speaks too much might be seen as insecure or overly eager to assert their dominance, whereas a leader who speaks less projects an image of confidence and control. Think about some of the most influential leaders in history. Many of them were known for their ability to listen more than they spoke, allowing others to reveal their plans and weaknesses. Abraham Lincoln, for instance, was a master of listening. His capacity to remain silent in many conversations allowed him to gather information, understand the concerns of others, and then act with the full weight of that knowledge. In Machiavelli's view, the truly powerful leader is not the one who fills the room with words, but the one who knows when to remain quiet. Silence is not about being mute or withdrawing entirely from conversations. It's about understanding when your words will be impactful and when they might harm you. When you speak, you reveal something about yourself, your thoughts, your intentions, your level of confidence. But when you remain silent, you keep others guessing, which would be a powerful advantage in any competitive situation. Moreover, silence also serves as a mechanism of control in interpersonal relationships. In personal dynamics, many people feel the need to talk constantly to assert their presence, but those who remain silent often command more respect. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone talks nonstop, filling the air with their opinions and thoughts, while another person simply listens? The listener, though quiet, often seems more in control of the situation. This is the power of silence at work. It forces the other person to keep talking, often revealing more than they intend to. The listener, in contrast, gathers more information and remains calm, creating an aura of authority. There's a psychological element to silence as well. Silence creates tension. It's uncomfortable, and when people are uncomfortable, they often act impulsively, speak without thinking, or reveal things they would prefer to keep hidden. This is why Machiavelli considered silence to be one of the most strategic tools in gaining power. It gives you time to observe, to think, and to wait for the right moment to act. When you speak too much, you lose that control. You give away pieces of your strategy, your thoughts, and your plans, and in doing so, you expose your weaknesses. But by remaining silent, you not only prevent others from learning too much about you, but you also force them to expose their own vulnerabilities. Machiavelli's insights into silence extend beyond just individual interactions. They also apply to the broader power structures in society. In politics, for example, silence can be a powerful tool for undermining opponents. By staying silent in the face of accusations or provocations, a politician can avoid giving their enemies the ammunition they need to attack. A well-timed silence can create doubt and uncertainty, leaving opponents unsure of how to proceed. This uncertainty can weaken their position and allow the silent party to gain the upper hand. One of the most striking aspects of Machiavelli's philosophy is the way he connects silence to strategy. He argues that silence allows you to control the flow of information and maintain an advantage over others. In a world where everyone is constantly talking, Those who know when to stay quiet stand out. They become the ones who are listened to when they do speak, because their words are rare, measured, and valuable. In today's world, it's easy to overlook the power of silence. With social media amplifying every thought and opinion, we often feel the need to share our thoughts with the world at every moment. But as Machiavelli would argue, this constant need to speak only diminishes our power. When everyone is speaking, no one is listening. But when you learn to control your words and harness the power of silence, you become a more effective communicator, a better negotiator, and a more powerful person. So, how can you apply the art of silence in your own life? Start by recognizing moments when speaking is unnecessary, when silence can serve you better. In conversations, pause before you respond. Listen more than you speak. In business negotiations, allow the other party to talk first and reveal their hand. By practicing the art of silence, you not only gain more insight into the world around you, but you also position yourself as someone who is in control, someone who doesn't need to fill the air with words to assert their authority. In conclusion, silence is not the absence of communication, it is the strategic use of space and time to control a situation, observe others, and maintain an advantage. Whether in leadership, business, or personal relationships, silence can be one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. By learning to control your words and when to withhold them, you can unlock a new level of influence and mastery. Machiavelli's view on leadership is deeply rooted in the idea that silence is a powerful weapon in the art of power. In the political realm, where information is often weaponized and where the struggle for influence is constant, the ability to remain silent at strategic moments can give one a significant advantage. Silence, according to Machiavelli, is not merely the absence of speech, but a calculated tool used to manipulate the flow of information, control situations, and protect oneself from potential threats. In essence, he believed that a wise leader is not one who speaks the loudest or most often, but one who knows when to hold their tongue, creating space for others to expose their intentions, while protecting their own. One of the key principles Machiavelli highlighted was the importance of not revealing one's full hand. Leaders who speak too freely risk divulging their plans, their thoughts, and their weaknesses, which can be exploited by adversaries. A leader's true power lies in their ability to control the information that flows from them, and silence allows for this control. When a leader remains quiet, they force others into a position of vulnerability, where they must speak first, revealing more than they intended. This is not just a defensive strategy. It's a proactive way to gather intelligence, analyze the intentions of others, and wait for the opportune moment to act. Throughout history, many political figures have understood the value of silence and used it effectively to maintain power and manipulate the course of events. For example, during the reign of Emperor Augustus in Rome, he was known for his careful control of information. Augustus rarely spoke about his plans or intentions openly, and when he did, his words were measured and strategic. This created an aura of mystery and power around him, making it difficult for his enemies to predict his next move. His ability to stay silent in the face of threats allowed him to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics without revealing his vulnerabilities. Similarly, during the Cold War, leaders such as Nikita Khrushchev and Richard Nixon demonstrated the importance of silence in international relations. Both leaders, at various points, utilized silence as a strategic tool in negotiations, using it to their advantage in high-stakes situations. For instance, when Nixon visited China in 1972, his willingness to remain silent during certain discussions was seen as a sign of strength, as it left the Chinese leadership unsure of his exact intentions. This uncertainty worked in Nixon's favor, as it allowed him to maintain leverage and control over the discussions without overcommitting to a position. The strategic use of silence in political contexts is not limited to the grand stage of international diplomacy or high-profile negotiations. Even in day-to-day political maneuvering, silence is a critical tool for leaders to control the narrative. For example, during political campaigns, candidates who know when to remain silent during debates or press conferences often come across as more authoritative and in control than those who speak constantly. A candidate who stays quiet when provoked or asked difficult questions can make their opponent appear overzealous or desperate, while maintaining an air of composure and confidence. Silence in such situations can create a sense of superiority, as it demonstrates that the individual is not easily rattled and does not need to speak to assert their authority. In terms of leadership, silence also plays a key role in maintaining a leader's credibility and reputation. Leaders who speak too much or too often risk overexposing themselves, which can lead to misinterpretation or criticism. Silence, on the other hand, allows a leader to maintain an air of mystery, making their words more impactful when they do choose to speak. This is a lesson that can be applied in business leadership as well. Leaders who talk constantly or make public statements on every issue may come across as lacking self-control or being too eager for attention. A more effective leader is one who understands the power of silence, waiting for the right moment to share their vision or respond to criticism, ensuring that their words carry weight and significance. From a personal perspective, I have found that silence is not just about withholding information. It is also about observing and listening. Leaders who remain silent in the face of conflict or tension are often able to gather more information than those who rush to speak. By choosing silence, a leader can analyze the situation, evaluate the motivations of others, and make more informed decisions. In business meetings, for example, I have noticed that when I remain quiet and allow others to speak first, I am able to gain valuable insights into their thoughts, concerns, and intentions. This not only helps me make better decisions, but also positions me as someone who is thoughtful and deliberate, rather than hasty or reactive. A perfect example of this principle in action can be seen in the world of negotiations. One of the most powerful strategies in negotiations is the ability to remain silent and let the other party speak first. When both sides are silent, the pressure builds and eventually, the other party will begin to fill the silence with more information than they had originally intended to share. In some cases, they may even concede more than they originally planned to. By choosing not to speak immediately, you create an opportunity for the other party to reveal their position, their weaknesses, and their strategy, giving you a distinct advantage. The value of silence in leadership is also evident in conflict resolution. Leaders who remain silent during moments of tension or disagreement can often defuse a situation without escalating it further. Instead of responding with anger or frustration, the leader's silence allows the situation to settle, providing time for emotions to cool and for a more measured response to emerge. This calmness and control can have a profound impact on the people around them, fostering respect and trust. People naturally respect leaders who are composed and measured in their responses, and silence often contributes to this perception of strength and authority. One key takeaway from Machiavelli's philosophy on leadership is that silence allows a leader to remain unpredictable. In a world where everyone is constantly speaking and offering their opinions, those who remain silent are often the ones who are hardest to read. This unpredictability can be a powerful tool, as it keeps others on edge, unsure of what to expect. When others cannot anticipate your actions or reactions, they are forced to proceed with caution, which can give you a distinct advantage in any political or leadership situation. This concept of unpredictability through silence can be applied not only in politics and leadership, but also in personal relationships. People often feel the need to fill every silence with words, but those who can remain silent are often perceived as more thoughtful and contemplative. In conversations, when you choose to remain silent, you give others the space to express themselves, revealing more about their thoughts and emotions than they may have intended. This can be especially useful in understanding the true intentions of others, as they may not be aware of how much they reveal when they are left to speak without interruption. Machiavelli's emphasis on silence is not just about avoiding harm or protecting oneself from manipulation. It is also about using silence to manipulate the situation in your favor. By remaining silent, you control the narrative, forcing others to fill the void with their own words and actions. This not only keeps you in control, but also gives you the opportunity to gather information, evaluate your options, and strike at the right moment. In conclusion, Machiavelli's idea of strategic silence is a powerful tool for anyone in a position of leadership or influence, whether in politics, business, or personal relationships. Silence provides the space to observe, analyze, and act with purpose. The ability to remain silent when necessary is a mark of wisdom, strength, and self-control, allowing leaders to gather the information they need to make informed decisions while keeping others off balance. The leaders who understand the power of silence are often the ones who hold the most influence, as they know when to speak and when to let silence do the work for them. True power doesn't stem from how much you speak. It comes from the ability to control your words and, more importantly, knowing when to remain silent. In a world where everyone seems to have an opinion and the need to be heard is constantly pushed to the forefront, Machiavelli's view on silence as self-control offers a radical perspective on the nature of authority. According to Machiavelli, controlling one's speech is a hallmark of real power, one that only those who master the art of silence can truly achieve. Silence is not about passivity or retreat. It is a deliberate, strategic choice that allows individuals to control situations, manage their emotions, and observe others without giving away their thoughts or intentions. This concept, while ancient, remains profoundly relevant in the modern world, especially when navigating moments of tension or conflict. Machiavelli recognized that in the battle for influence and power, word can be both a weapon and a trap. Speaking too much without restraint or thought exposes one's vulnerabilities. Words, once spoken, cannot be taken back, and they often carry unintended consequences. In contrast, silence holds immense power. When you remain silent, you maintain control over your narrative. You prevent others from using your words against you. Silence, therefore, is an active form of control that allows you to shape situations without being manipulated by them. The ability to control your speech, to hold back your thoughts at the right moment, is a clear indicator of personal strength and power. Self-control, particularly in the realm of communication, is perhaps the most difficult form of control to master. It requires discipline, patience, and an awareness of a larger picture. In situations of intense emotion or conflict, it is often tempting to react impulsively and speak your mind. Yet, this is precisely when silence can be the most powerful tool in your arsenal. Speaking in moments of stress or frustration can lead to rash decisions, misunderstandings, and even the worsening of a situation. But by choosing silence, you allow yourself the time to think, to analyze, and to understand the dynamics at play before responding. Reflecting on my own experiences, I realize that there have been countless moments where choosing silence has protected me from saying things I would have regretted later. In personal relationships, in business negotiations, and even in casual interactions, the ability to stay quiet has often given me the space to process my emotions and consider the best course of action. In moments of tension, when it feels like the pressure is mounting and emotions are running high, choosing to remain silent can often prevent a small misunderstanding from escalating into a major conflict. This type of self-control demonstrates wisdom and maturity. It signals that you are not easily swayed by the emotions of the moment and that you are confident enough to let silence do the work. Machiavelli's philosophy on self-control is particularly important when applied to leadership. A leader who speaks too much risks diluting their authority. The more a leader talks, the more they reveal their thoughts, their strategies, and their weaknesses. On the other hand, a leader who remains silent in the right situations projects an image of self-assurance and strength. By withholding unnecessary words, they create an air of mystery and respect. People are drawn to leaders who seem to have everything under control, who know when to speak and when to hold back. This is why some of the most successful leaders in history, from Winston Churchill to Abraham Lincoln, have been known for their ability to speak sparingly, but with great effect. For example, during times of war or crisis, leaders often find themselves under immense pressure to respond immediately, to speak decisively, and to reassure their people. However, as Machiavelli pointed out, the most powerful leaders are those who exercise restraint in moments of pressure. Lincoln, during the American Civil War, faced countless crises where every word he said would be scrutinized and potentially used against him. Yet, he understood that every word mattered. In many cases, he chose silence in the face of criticism or pressure, knowing that his silence would preserve his dignity, create anticipation, and avoid giving away his next move. Similarly, Winston Churchill, during World War II, knew when to speak to inspire his people, but he also knew when silence was the most powerful response. In the face of adversity, his speeches were carefully crafted and delivered at strategic moments, but he also recognized that some situations called for silence and reflection. By withholding his words, Churchill gave himself the time to understand the gravity of the situation and make decisions based on careful consideration, rather than hasty reaction. In both of these cases, silence wasn't just a tool for avoiding mistakes. It was a strategic decision that helped both leaders maintain control, preserve their authority, and ultimately shape the course of history. Silence is also crucial in business, where the stakes are high, and every word can influence the outcome of negotiations. A seasoned negotiator understands that words have weight, and that speaking too much can reveal too much. In many business settings, silence can be used as a tool to gain an upper hand. Imagine sitting across from a colleague or business partner in a meeting where both sides are trying to strike a deal. If you rush to speak, eager to prove your point or push your agenda, you may inadvertently give away your position. However, if you remain silent, you allow the other party to reveal their hand first. This can provide valuable insight into their priorities, concerns, and motivations, giving you the information you need to respond strategically. Take, for example, the common tactic of the silent treatment in negotiations is often used to create pressure on the other party, forcing them to either concede or speak out of discomfort. This approach, though simple, can be remarkably effective. By staying silent, you allow the other party to fill the silence, often revealing more than they intended. It's a psychological tactic that plays on human nature. People are uncomfortable with silence, and they will often try to break it by speaking, sometimes saying too much in the process. In this way, silence becomes not just a form of self-control, but a powerful method of gaining an advantage in high-stakes situations. Personally, I've found that silence can be incredibly effective in resolving conflicts. When disagreements arise, whether in the workplace or in personal relationships, there is often an urge to speak out immediately to defend yourself or to explain your position. However, taking a moment to pause and remain silent can allow emotions to cool and give both parties the space to reconsider their positions. Silence in such situations creates a calmness that allows for a more thoughtful, reasoned approach to resolving the conflict, rather than escalating the situation with impulsive words. The benefits of silence also extend to emotional regulation. It is easy to speak when we are angry, hurt, or frustrated, but in these moments, words can be the most dangerous. Once they are spoken, they can never be unsaid, and they can have lasting effects on our relationships and reputation. By choosing silence in moments of emotional turbulence, we give ourselves the opportunity to process our emotions, think clearly, and respond more rationally. This kind of self-control is often what separates those who are respected and admired from those who are seen as impulsive or immature. Consider the example of a heated argument. In the heat of the moment, emotions can cloud our judgment, and words can become weapons. However, if we choose silence instead of engaging in a back-and-forth exchange, we not only avoid making the situation worse, but also create an opportunity for the other person to reflect on their own words and actions. Silence, in this context, becomes a form of self-discipline that prevents us from saying something we may regret. It also puts us in control of the situation, allowing us to respond when we have regained our composure and clarity of thought. Silence as self-control is not just about protecting ourselves from making mistakes. It is about asserting our authority and shaping our interactions with others. By choosing silence at the right moments, we convey that we are not easily swayed or rattled. It sends a powerful message that we are confident, composed, and in control. This is particularly important in leadership roles, where the ability to inspire confidence in others is paramount. When people see that a leader can remain calm and composed, even in the face of pressure, they are more likely to trust that leader's judgment and follow their guidance. In conclusion, silence as self-control is one of the most powerful tools available to anyone seeking to gain influence, authority, or control. Whether in leadership, negotiations, or personal interactions, silence allows us to maintain our composure, protect ourselves from rash decisions, and gain a strategic advantage. The ability to control our words, to speak only when necessary, and to remain silent when it matters, is the ultimate expression of personal power. It is a skill that, once mastered, can elevate us above the noise of the world and allow us to shape our destiny with deliberate precision. In the world of business, negotiation is often considered a battleground where each side fights for control, advantage, and ultimately, success. At its core, negotiation is about gaining the upper hand. And one of the most powerful tools in this process is not what you say, but what you choose not to say. Silence. Silence in business negotiations can be far more than a simple pause or lack of words. It can be a strategy that allows you to observe your counterpart, assess their position, and decide the best course of action. Machiavelli, in his writings on power and strategy, understood this concept deeply. He famously advised that, in business deals, let your opponent reveal their plans before you reveal yours. This simple yet profound piece of advice highlights the importance of silence as a tool of observation, control, and strategic positioning in business negotiations. Negotiation power is not always about making the most persuasive argument or speaking the most eloquently. Often, it is about knowing when to hold back and when to let the other side take the lead. When you remain silent, you create space for your counterpart to expose themselves, whether by sharing more information than they intended, revealing weaknesses, or showing their true objectives. This strategic silence allows you to gather more information about their position and adjust your strategy accordingly. In essence, silence becomes a tool to let your counterpart make the first move. And in doing so, you can position yourself more effectively. Machiavelli's advice on business deals underscores the importance of not rushing to speak. The temptation to fill every silence with words or to assert one's position prematurely can be a serious mistake. The most effective negotiators know that sometimes the best move is to remain silent, allowing the other party to speak first. This approach not only gives you the opportunity to gather valuable insights into their goals, intentions, and priorities, but it also allows you to control the flow of information. By withholding your own plans, you force the other party to reveal theirs, which can provide you with a significant advantage. In a typical business negotiation, the dynamics of power can shift based on who controls the conversation. When one side speaks too much, they risk overexposing themselves and providing the other side with ammunition that can be used against them. On the other hand, when you remain silent, you maintain an air of mystery and confidence. This silence can throw the other side off balance, forcing them to fill the void with more information. The longer the silence persists, the more the other party may feel compelled to offer additional concessions or reveal their true thoughts. In this way, silence serves as a psychological tool that plays on human discomfort with empty space in conversation. One of the most memorable examples of silence in a negotiation happened in a business meeting I participated in a few years ago. We were discussing a potential partnership with a company that had more resources and a larger customer base than ours. Initially, I was nervous about what to say and how to present our value proposition in a way that would convince them to partner with us. However, I remember the advice to let the other side reveal their plans first, instead of rushing into a pitch or try to convince them of our worth right away. I decided to stay quiet and allow the other party to speak. They began to share their vision for the partnership, and with each passing minute, they revealed more about their concerns, their current limitations, and their expectations. What was most enlightening, however, was how their responses and the questions they asked gave me a clear sense of their priorities and fears. They were not as confident about their market position as I had initially assumed, and their need for a strong, reliable partner was much greater than they had let on. By listening intently, without interjecting or pushing my own agenda, I was able to understand their situation more thoroughly. This gave me the upper hand when I finally spoke. I crafted my response carefully, addressing their concerns directly and emphasizing how our company could meet their needs in ways they hadn't fully considered. Had I rushed to speak or tried to immediately sell them on our strengths, I might not have gained the insights that allowed me to adjust my approach. In this case, silence was the key to gaining a deeper understanding of the other party's position, which ultimately allowed us to negotiate a much more favorable deal. Another example of the power of silence in negotiations comes from the world of high-stakes business deals. In many corporate mergers and acquisitions, the parties involved are often in a rush to secure the deal and make their positions clear. However, some of the most successful negotiators in these situations understand that the deal is not just about presenting your offer or defending your position. It is about strategically listening and waiting for the right moment to strike. One notable example is the acquisition of Pixar by Disney. When Steve Jobs, who was the largest shareholder of Pixar at the time, was negotiating the sale of the company to Disney, he remained calm and reserved, choosing to listen to Disney's offers rather than making the first move. Jobs knew that if he allowed Disney to lay out their terms first, he could assess whether they were truly valuing Pixar's potential or simply trying to take advantage of the situation. By waiting for Disney to present their initial offer, Jobs was able to gauge the company's intentions and adjust his strategy. In the end, Pixar's acquisition by Disney was a highly lucrative deal for Jobs, who ultimately sold his shares for billions of dollars. The negotiation's success was, in part, due to Jobs' ability to remain silent and not rush to reveal his position. In this case, silence allowed Jobs to gain valuable insight into Disney's thinking, and that knowledge played a key role in securing the best deal possible. The value of silence in business negotiations is not just about gathering information, it is also about projecting confidence and authority. When you are comfortable with silence and are not afraid of allowing others to speak first, you demonstrate to the other party that you are in control of the situation. Silence shows that you are not desperate to close the deal or to prove your worth. Instead, it suggests that you are secure enough to let the conversation unfold naturally, and that you are comfortable with waiting for the right opportunities to make your move. This is an essential component of effective negotiation strategy. Many negotiators, particularly those new to the game, are eager to speak, to make their case, and to win the other side over. However, this eagerness can often backfire. By speaking too much, you risk revealing too much of your hand, allowing the other side to anticipate your next move. Silence, on the other hand, keeps your cards close to your chest. It forces the other party to engage more fully, to reveal their needs and priorities, and to come to the table with their best offer. The more you control the flow of conversation through silence, the more power you have in the negotiation. Personal insight into the power of silence comes from a variety of experiences. In my own business dealings, I have found that the most powerful moments in negotiations are often those where I choose not to speak. By carefully listening to the other side, I've been able to uncover hidden weaknesses in their position and identify opportunities that I might have otherwise missed. When I've remained silent during tense moments in negotiations, I have noticed that the other party tends to reveal their true thoughts, often disclosing information that helps me better understand their motivations and priorities. This insight gives me a much clearer picture of the situation, allowing me to craft more targeted, effective responses when it's finally my turn to speak. Silence in business is also a critical tool for managing emotional dynamics. In many negotiations, emotions can run high, especially when large sums of money or significant business decisions are involved. In these moments, the ability to remain silent and not react immediately is a sign of control and maturity. If you allow yourself to be swept up in the emotions of the moment, you risk making decisions based on impulse rather than strategy. By staying silent, you create space to think more clearly, to manage your own emotions, and to respond in a way that reflects your true objectives rather than a reaction to temporary feelings. In conclusion, silence is a potent tool in business negotiations, and those who master are often the most successful. By allowing the other party to speak first, you can gain valuable insights into their position and motivations. Silence also projects confidence and authority, demonstrating that you are not desperate to close a deal, but are instead focused on finding the right opportunity. Whether you're negotiating a partnership, a sale, or a merger, understanding when to speak and when to remain silent is crucial to achieving success. Through strategic silence, you can control the flow of conversation, maintain the upper hand, and ultimately secure better deals. Silence holds a profound psychological advantage in any interaction, particularly in negotiations or power dynamics, where it can create a sense of uncertainty and discomfort in the other party. When someone remains silent, they create an invisible pressure on those around them, forcing them to fill the void. This discomfort can compel people to speak more than they intend, revealing crucial information that they would prefer to keep hidden. It is a form of psychological manipulation, a technique that makes the other person feel compelled to speak to relieve the tension of silence. By forcing them into this position, the one who controls the silence holds the upper hand, gathering valuable insights into their adversary's thoughts, intentions, and strategies. Machiavelli, the master of political and strategic thought, was acutely aware of the psychological advantages of silence. In his writings, particularly in The Prince, he explained that uncertainty is one of the most powerful tools available to a leader. When others cannot predict your actions or read your intentions, they are left to wonder, creating a psychological environment where they are on the defensive. Silence breeds this uncertainty, forcing others to reveal their plans, thoughts, and vulnerabilities. By keeping quiet, a leader can subtly destabilize their opponents, making them feel insecure and eventually forcing them to expose more than they would have if they had been left to their own devices. The most effective leaders, according to Machiavelli, are not those who speak the most or make their intentions clear at every opportunity. Instead, they are the ones who understand the power of withholding information, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty that works to their advantage. Silence is not about withdrawing from the conversation, but about using the absence of sound to control the flow of information. When you do not speak, others are left to fill the silence, often revealing more than they intend. This principle is evident in both political maneuvering and business strategy, where the ability to stay quiet can lead to unexpected advantages. An example of how silence creates uncertainty can be drawn from a personal experience during a business negotiation. In this case, I was negotiating with a potential partner who was eager to close a deal but seemed to lack confidence in their position. As they spoke about the terms of the deal, I noticed that they began to ramble, filling the silence with unnecessary explanations and details. Rather than interrupting or jumping in with my counteroffer, I chose to remain silent, allowing them to continue. The longer I stayed quiet, the more uncomfortable they became, and they started to over-explain their position. In doing so, they inadvertently revealed weaknesses in their offer, including concerns about their own company's financial stability that they had not previously mentioned. This is a classic example of how silence can force people to reveal information they otherwise would have kept hidden. By simply withholding my response and allowing the silence to stretch on, I created an environment where the other party felt the need to speak to fill the awkward gap. This led them to expose more than they intended, giving me a clear advantage in the negotiation. Silence, in this instance, worked as a tool of power. By not speaking, I was able to gather more information, which ultimately helped me secure a better deal. The psychological impact of silence on the other party is significant. When people feel the pressure of silence, they often react in ways that expose their true thoughts and intentions. The discomfort caused by an extended silence can create a sense of urgency in the other party to fill the void, which they often do by speaking. This phenomenon, known as the power of the pause, is a well-known technique in various forms of communication, including negotiation and conflict resolution. The longer someone stays silent, the more likely the other person is to speak to ease the tension, even if they are not ready to reveal all their cards. Silence taps into the natural human need for closure and resolution. When there is an uncomfortable pause, the brain craves resolution, and people instinctively try to fill the silence to alleviate that discomfort. This is why silence can be such a powerful tool in high-stakes situations. In a business negotiation, for example, if one party remains silent after making a statement or asking a question, the other party may feel compelled to respond, often providing more information than they intended or making concessions they hadn't planned on offering. This technique can be particularly effective when the other party is under pressure or when they feel that they need to prove their position. Machiavelli's understanding of uncertainty highlights the importance of this psychological principle. He knew that uncertainty could weaken an adversary, forcing them to reveal more than they intended. The use of silence to create this uncertainty is one of the most subtle yet effective ways to gain an advantage. When someone doesn't know what the other party is thinking, they're left to fill in the gaps with assumptions and guesses. These assumptions can be inaccurate, leading to mistakes or miscalculations that the person using silence can exploit. The silence itself does not need to be filled with any grand gestures or statements. It is the absence of communication that creates the pressure. And it is this pressure that forces others to act in ways that reveal their vulnerabilities. This concept of silence as a tool for creating uncertainty can be applied not only in formal negotiations, but also in everyday interactions. In personal relationships, for example, silence can create an environment where the other person feels the need to justify their actions, explain themselves, or offer information they would not have otherwise shared. This is particularly effective in situations where there is tension or disagreement. When one person remains silent in a conversation, it often forces the other person to speak more, trying to fill the void, defend themselves, or offer explanations. Over time, this can lead to the revelation of hidden motivations or concerns that would otherwise remain unspoken. In conflict resolution, silence can be just as powerful. During a disagreement, silence can serve as a cooling-off period, giving both parties the time and space to reflect on the situation before responding. However, silence also creates psychological pressure, forcing the other party to confront their own emotions and motivations. The discomfort of silence can lead people to reconsider their positions or offer compromises they might not have been willing to make in a more heated exchange. The key is that silence forces others to take responsibility for their own words and actions, which can shift the dynamic of the conversation in your favor. Consider the example of a manager in a corporate environment dealing with an underperforming employee. Instead of immediately addressing the issue with a direct confrontation, the manager might choose to remain silent after pointing out the problem. This silence creates discomfort for the employee, who feels the need to respond. In that response, the employee may admit to shortcomings, provide explanations, or offer solutions that were not previously discussed. The silence puts the employee in a position where they feel compelled to explain themselves, which can provide the manager with insights into the employee's mindset and motivations. The psychological advantage of silence is not just about forcing the other person to speak, it is also about controlling the emotional tone of a conversation. By staying quiet, you give yourself the time to assess the emotional temperature of the situation and you allow the other party to reveal their emotional state. People often let their guard down when they're speaking to fill silence, inadvertently disclosing their true feelings, frustrations, or desires. Silence forces others to confront their emotions and may lead them to offer insights that are more genuine than what they would have shared if the conversation had continued uninterrupted. Ultimately, silence serves as a powerful tool for gaining a psychological advantage in any interaction. It creates uncertainty, discomfort, and pressure, forcing others to reveal more than they intended. By controlling the flow of conversation through silence, you put yourself in a position to gather information, assess the situation, and respond strategically. Whether in negotiations, conflict resolution, or everyday interactions, silence can be used to control the psychological dynamics of a conversation, ensuring that you remain one step ahead. Machiavelli's understanding of uncertainty and his mastery of using silence to destabilize opponents is a powerful reminder of the subtlety and strength inherent in the practice of quietude. Silence is not just a lack of sound. It is a tool of strategy, observation, and psychological influence. Every word we speak carries weight. In a world where we are constantly surrounded by conversations, debates, and discussions, it is easy to forget that words are not just a means of communication. They are tools of influence. And if not used carefully, they can become weapons. The more we speak, the more we risk revealing things we don't intend to share. This is why the cost of words is so high. Each word has the potential to build bridges or burn them, to create trust or destroy it, to influence or backfire. Speaking too much, especially without thought or consideration, can cause far more harm than good. Machiavelli, in his writings on power and strategy, understood this well. He warned that careless words could easily become weapons in the hands of others, tools that can be used to manipulate, undermine, and weaken us. Machiavelli's caution regarding excessive speaking was not about advocating for silence all the time, but rather for the importance of strategic communication. He understood that words, when used recklessly, can expose vulnerabilities, reveal intentions, and ultimately play into the hands of our adversaries. When we speak too much, we risk giving others the ammunition they need to defeat us. In this sense, the cost of words is not just a financial or immediate one. It's a long-term cost to our reputation, our position, and our ability to maintain control. Machiavelli's warning about the dangers of speaking too much is not just an abstract theory. It is a principle grounded in the very real dynamics of power, both in politics and in everyday life. In The Prince, he cautioned that a ruler or leader must be strategic in their communication, never revealing too much about their plans or desires. This level of discretion ensures that the leader retains control over the narrative, leaving opponents in the dark about their next move. The more a leader speaks, the more they expose themselves. And once vulnerabilities are revealed, they become targets for exploitation. It's a lesson that applies not only to monarchs or political figures, but to anyone in a position of influence or power. The potential dangers of speaking too much can be easily illustrated in both personal and professional contexts. One of the most telling examples of this occurred during a business negotiation that I was part of several years ago. The situation involved a deal that had the potential to significantly increase the reach and resources of my company. In the early stages, I was eager to impress the other party with our capabilities and to ensure that they understood just how much we could bring to the table. In my eagerness, I spoke excessively, explaining in detail our plans for expansion, the strength of our products, and the future vision of the company. As the conversation went on, I realized that I had revealed far more than I should have. Not only had I disclosed sensitive strategic information, but I also inadvertently gave the other party an opportunity to counter our position. They picked up on our weaknesses, areas where we were still working on improving, and used that knowledge to adjust their offer, reducing the terms they were willing to agree to. What I thought was a way of persuading them with our strengths had, in reality, weakened our position by providing too much information too soon. By talking too much, I had inadvertently handed them the tools they needed to undercut our position and drive a harder bargain. This is precisely the danger that Machiavelli warned against. Once you speak, you cannot take your words back. Even in the most casual of conversations, we often reveal more than we intend. When we are under pressure or trying to assert ourselves, we may unintentionally divulge things that leave us exposed. This can happen in personal relationships as well. When we speak without thinking, we risk saying something hurtful, revealing our insecurities, or exposing things we may not want to share. It's easy to get caught up in the flow of a conversation, but when we speak impulsively, we give others a chance to use our words against us. The key lesson here is simple but powerful. Speaking less, but with more purpose, is often far more effective than talking excessively without thinking. When you speak with intention, your words carry more weight, and they're more likely to be taken seriously. This is a principle that can be applied in any situation, whether you're in a negotiation, a leadership position, or even in everyday interactions. People tend to listen more attentively to those who speak less but with purpose because their words are seen as valuable, measured, and deliberate. In contrast, those who speak constantly, filling every silence with words, often come across as insecure or unsure, as though they are trying too hard to assert themselves. This is not to say that silence is always the best option, but rather that strategic communication is more effective than a constant stream of words. Silence gives others a chance to speak, to reveal their true thoughts and intentions, while also giving you time to think and respond thoughtfully. By speaking only when necessary, you retain control of the conversation and avoid the pitfall of overexposure. This strategy is especially useful in high-stakes situations, where every word can have a significant impact on the outcome. Take, for example, the art of leadership communication. The most respected leaders are often those who speak infrequently, but with great impact. They understand that their words carry weight, and they use them sparingly. For instance, when a CEO speaks at an all-hands meeting, every word is carefully chosen, and the message is usually clear, direct, and concise. The power of their communication lies in the fact that they do not speak for the sake of speaking. Rather, they speak to inform, inspire, or direct action. In contrast, leaders who are constantly talking may dilute their message, and their words may begin to lose significance over time. People start to tune them out because the leader's words no longer feel purposeful or impactful. This is especially true in negotiations. A good negotiator knows that less is often more. By staying quiet and allowing the other party to speak, you gather valuable information about their position. When you speak too much, you risk revealing your own strategy, priorities, and weaknesses. The best negotiators are those who remain calm and composed, speaking only when it adds value to the conversation. They understand the value of listening and using silence to their advantage. Another key aspect of the lesson about speaking too much is the concept of emotional control. Speaking impulsively often comes from a place of emotional reaction, whether it's frustration, insecurity, or anxiety. When we speak out of emotion rather than reason, we are more likely to make mistakes. Speaking too much can also lead to an emotional outburst, and that outburst can hurt relationships or damage reputations. It's a common mistake, but one that can be avoided by taking a moment to pause and reflect before responding. The ability to control your words is not just about strategic thinking. It's also about emotional maturity and self-discipline. By thinking before you speak, you ensure that your words reflect your true intentions and not your momentary emotions. There's also a deeper psychological component to the act of speaking too much. When we speak excessively, we may be attempting to fill an emotional void, whether it's the desire for validation, recognition, or attention. The more we talk, the more we seek to be heard, but in doing so, we risk coming across as needy or insecure. In contrast, when we speak sparingly and with purpose, we project confidence and control. People are drawn to those who do not feel the need to dominate the conversation or constantly assert their opinions. They value individuals who are thoughtful, deliberate, and confident enough to remain silent when necessary. A personal reflection on this principle comes from an experience I had during a professional conflict. I was engaged in a debate with a colleague over a project's direction, and in my attempt to defend my position, I found myself speaking too much. I was so focused on making my case and proving that I was right that I didn't pause to consider whether I was truly listening to the other person. Eventually, I realized that my excessive talking was not persuading anyone, but rather alienating those around me. The more I spoke, the more I felt misunderstood, and the less receptive others became to my ideas. When I stopped talking, took a step back, and allowed others to speak, I was able to gather more information, understand their concerns, and come up with a more thoughtful and collaborative solution. It was a clear example of how speaking less, but with more intention, can not only help you communicate more effectively, but also help you build better relationships and avoid unnecessary conflict. The lesson here is that speaking less, but with more purpose leads to greater impact. It's not about being silent all the time, but rather about choosing your words carefully and making sure that when you speak, it adds value to the conversation. The best communicators are those who know when to listen, when to speak, and when to remain silent. By mastering this balance, we can avoid the pitfalls of speaking too much and harness the true power of words. In conclusion, the real strength in communication lies in the ability to speak with purpose and restraint. Machiavelli's warning about the dangers of speaking too much is a timeless lesson about the power of words. By understanding the cost of words, we can become more strategic and thoughtful in our communication, ensuring that our words are used to build, not destroy. In business, leadership, and personal relationships, speaking less, but with more purpose can create a lasting impact and avoid the pitfalls of overexposure. Silence, in its purest form, is not just the absence of sound, it is a powerful tool for observation, an opportunity to absorb the full scope of a situation without rushing to speak. In every conversation, every negotiation, and every interaction, silence gives us the time and space to truly observe the dynamics at play. It allows us to step back, to analyze, and to understand the motives, thoughts, and behaviors of those around us. This skill of observing through silence is not only valuable in personal relationships, but also essential in business, politics, and leadership. The ability to pause and watch without immediately filling the void with words is an underrated yet crucial skill that can unlock profound insights and help us make more informed decisions. Mastering observation through silence is an art. It requires patience, focus, and a willingness to listen not just with our ears but with our entire being. In a conversation, when we are silent, we are not simply waiting for our turn to speak. Instead, we are actively gathering data, looking for micro-expressions, noticing body language, and interpreting tone and pace of speech. All of these nonverbal cues provide us with a deeper understanding of what is really happening beneath the surface of words. When we speak, we risk missing the nuances of these subtleties. Silence, on the other hand, allows us to take everything in, to observe how people act and what they do, not just what they say. In this way, silence becomes a tool for learning, for collecting insights that can help us navigate relationships, negotiations, and even conflicts. Machiavelli, with his deep understanding of strategy and human nature, recognized the profound power of observation. In his writings, particularly in The Prince, he often emphasized the importance of patience and waiting for the right moment to act. He understood that in politics and war, those who rush into action without carefully observing the landscape are often the ones who make costly mistakes. Patience, according to Machiavelli, is the key to success. It allows one to wait for the opportune moment, to gather information, and to understand the true dynamics of a situation. In this context, silence is an invaluable ally to patience. When we are silent, we create the space necessary for careful observation. We allow others to reveal their intentions, their emotions, and their weaknesses. Rather than acting impulsively, we let the situation unfold naturally, giving us the advantage of knowing when and how to strike. Machiavelli's teachings on strategy often point to the idea that the best leaders are not the ones who act first, but those who wait, watch, and then act decisively when the time is right. In political settings, this approach is crucial. The most effective leaders are not always the most vocal or aggressive. Rather, they are those who understand the importance of timing and the art of observation. By waiting for the right moment to act, they can avoid unnecessary risks, better assess their opponents, and make more strategic decisions. This sense of patience, coupled with the ability to observe and listen, helps them maintain an edge over others who might be too hasty or emotionally driven in their responses. In my personal experience, the value of observing through silence has been a transformative lesson. There have been numerous times when I've been in conversations or situations where my instinct was to jump in and speak my mind. However, taking a step back and remaining silent allowed me to understand the situation on a much deeper level. I recall a time when I was involved in a tense negotiation with a potential business partner. The conversation was fraught with pressure, and I could feel the urge to immediately respond to each point they made. Instead of reacting impulsively, I decided to remain silent for a few moments after each statement they made. During those moments of silence, I paid close attention to their body language, their tone, and the subtle cues that revealed their true concerns. By listening carefully and allowing them to speak without interruption, I was able to understand what was truly important to them, what their fears were, and what their priorities in the deal were. This observation, through the lens of silence, gave me valuable insights that I would not have gathered if I had been too quick to speak. It was in those moments of quiet that I learned more about the situation than I had through hours of conversation. Ultimately, the negotiation became more fruitful because I had waited for the right moments to interject, using the information I had gleaned during the silence to make a more compelling, informed argument. In this case, the ability to observe rather than act immediately made all the difference in securing the partnership. The value of listening, which is closely tied to the art of observation, cannot be overstated. Silence in conversation not only allows us to observe, but also provides others with the space to express themselves fully. When we are silent, we signal to others that we are genuinely interested in what they have to say, that we are open to hearing their thoughts and perspectives. This act of listening, made possible by silence, fosters trust and builds stronger relationships. People tend to open up more when they feel heard, and silence is one of the most powerful ways to convey that you're paying attention to what they are saying. In a professional setting, this can be especially valuable. For example, during meetings with colleagues or clients, when we refrain from speaking excessively, we create an environment where others feel more comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas. As a leader, the ability to listen and observe can inspire loyalty and respect from team members, as they feel valued and understood. The act of remaining silent, even in the face of disagreement, shows maturity and confidence. It demonstrates that you are secure enough to listen and process information before responding, which can make others more inclined to trust your judgment and decisions. I've noticed in my own career that the best leaders I've worked with were not the ones who dominated every conversation, but those who knew how to listen and observe. They understood the power of silence and the importance of giving others the space to express their thoughts fully. These leaders would often ask a question and then sit back, allowing the conversation to unfold. They didn't rush to fill the silence with their own answers or opinions. Instead, they patiently listened, absorbing all the information before offering their thoughts. As a result, they made better decisions, fostered a culture of open communication, and built stronger relationships with their teams. Similarly, silence plays a critical role in conflict resolution. When two parties are at odds, the urge to speak and argue can be overwhelming. However, when we take a step back and choose silence, we give ourselves and the other party the time needed to reflect on the situation. In doing so, we can prevent the conversation from escalating into further conflict. Silence provides space for emotions to settle and for reason to take the lead. It also encourages the other party to think more carefully about their position, as they're no longer responding to reactive comments, but instead reflecting on the situation with a clearer mind. In relationships, silence can also be an important tool for understanding. Sometimes, words can be misinterpreted or cause unnecessary tension. When we remain silent, we give the other person the opportunity to express their feelings and motivations fully. This silence, when used intentionally, can reveal things that are often left unsaid in the heat of the moment. It shows that we are willing to listen and understand, not just react. This ability to absorb the full range of information, verbal and nonverbal, helps us respond more empathetically and effectively. The value of listening and observing through silence is also evident in decision-making processes. When we are silent, we give ourselves the time to process the information at hand, weighing the pros and cons before making a decision. In fast-paced environments where decisions often need to be made quickly, silence allows us to slow down and ensure that we are not acting on impulse. By listening to others, observing their behavior, and understanding the context, we make better informed decisions. In this way, silence becomes a tool not just for understanding others, but also for understanding ourselves and the situation we are facing. As Machiavelli taught, the ability to wait for the right moment, to observe rather than react, is a hallmark of strategic thinking. By mastering the art of observation through silence, we can better understand the world around us, make more informed decisions, and build stronger, more meaningful relationships. Silence is not an absence of action, but a powerful form of engagement, a way to learn, to listen, and to lead with wisdom. The more we learn to observe through silence, the more we gain insight into others, and the more we can shape our own actions with greater precision and understanding. Silence is often misunderstood as the absence of communication, but in reality, it is a powerful tool for success. It is not about withholding your thoughts or retreating into a void of quietness, but about using silence strategically to gain insight, control, and influence. Throughout history, many leaders, politicians, and strategists have understood the power of silence and its role in shaping outcomes, whether in personal relationships, business, or political maneuvering. The key point here is that silence is not just about choosing not to speak. It's about choosing when to speak and when silence can create the greatest impact. At the core of Machiavelli's teachings is the idea that power is not about making the loudest noise, but about controlling the narrative, which often involves the careful use of silence. Silence, as Machiavelli observed, is not a passive state. Rather, it is an active strategy. By withholding information or resisting the urge to speak, a person can create an environment where they retain control over the flow of information, keep their intentions hidden, and gather valuable insights into the thoughts and motivations of others. It is this control and ability to remain one step ahead that defines true power. Machiavelli's teachings remind us that silence is not a weakness. Instead, it is a tool that allows individuals to master their environment without needing to assert themselves verbally at every turn. In this, Machiavelli asserts that there is immense strength in knowing when to remain silent. Silence does more than shield us from potential harm. It enhances our authority, preserves our strategy, and forces others to reveal their intentions. It is in the moments when we choose silence over speech that we assert the most control. When we allow others to fill the void, we often gain access to information that can change the course of a conversation, a negotiation, or even a relationship. The silence itself becomes a mechanism for both protection and power, giving us the time to analyze, reflect, and respond with precision. From a personal perspective, I have found that silence can be an incredibly powerful tool in navigating the complexities of both personal and professional life. In my experiences, I've witnessed firsthand how silence can create space for others to speak more freely, reveal their true feelings, or even expose their weaknesses. In business negotiations, for example, I have seen how staying silent after presenting an offer can lead the other party to disclose more about their concerns or counteroffers than they had initially intended. By not rushing to fill the silence with words, I allowed the other party to reveal their position more fully, which gave me the insight I needed to adjust my strategy and secure a more favorable outcome. On a personal level, I've also seen how silence can enhance relationships, whether it's with friends, family, or colleagues. Allowing others to speak freely without interruption can build trust and create deeper, more meaningful connections. Silence gives people the opportunity to express themselves without fear of judgment or interruption, fostering a sense of respect and understanding. In my own relationships, I've noticed that when I choose silence, it often leads to others feeling more comfortable and open, which ultimately strengthens the bond between us. The beauty of silence, as Machiavelli recognized, is that it is not just a defensive strategy, it is a proactive one. It allows us to maintain control over the situation while forcing others to expose their hand. It's a subtle yet effective way to gather information and assess the motivations of others without revealing too much of ourselves. In business and leadership, where every word can have consequences, silence provides a moment of clarity, enabling us to think before we act and respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. In moments of tension or conflict, silence can diffuse the situation, allowing time for reflection and thoughtful resolution rather than rash actions or hasty decisions. However, the key to using silence effectively lies in understanding when to use it. Silence is not always appropriate, and it should not be used as a means of avoidance or neglect. It must be employed strategically, with purpose, to gain the desired effect. The ability to discern when silence is the right choice and when it is time to speak is what separates effective communicators from those who struggle to control their message. Machiavelli, in his works, demonstrated that the greatest leaders are those who can strike a balance between speaking and remaining silent, using each tool at the right moment to assert their authority and maintain control. Silence also plays a significant role in conflict resolution. In many disputes, whether personal or professional, the urge to speak first, to defend oneself, or to argue a point is often overwhelming. However, it is precisely in these moments that silence can work to your advantage. By pausing before responding, you give yourself the space to consider your words carefully and respond in a way that is measured and thoughtful. Silence can escalate tension, allowing both parties to reflect on their positions and find common ground without the exchange becoming hostile or reactive. In the workplace, silence can also be a strategic tool in managing teams and guiding discussions. As a leader, choosing when to speak and when to remain silent can set the tone for the entire team. By listening more than speaking, a leader can gain valuable insights into the dynamics of the group, understand the concerns of team members, and make more informed decisions. Silence can encourage others to speak more freely, fostering an open and collaborative environment where all voices are heard. It also signals that the leader values thoughtfulness and reflection over rash decisions, which can build trust and respect among team members. At a deeper level, silence can create a sense of authority and presence. When a person speaks less, but with purpose, they often come across as more thoughtful, confident, and in control. In social situations, those who speak excessively may be perceived as insecure or needy, as if they are trying to fill a void. In contrast, those who speak less, but with intention, project a sense of assurance that others naturally gravitate toward. The ability to remain silent in the face of conversation or conflict often conveys strength, as it shows that the person is not easily swayed by the pressure of the moment and is confident enough to wait for the right opportunity to speak. It is also important to note that silence can be transformative. When we choose to remain silent in a conversation or negotiation, we are not just withholding words, we are actively listening, observing, and learning. This act of silence gives us the time to process the situation and make decisions based on insight rather than impulse. By allowing others to speak, We gain access to their thoughts, intentions, and vulnerabilities, which provides us with the information we need to navigate the situation more effectively. In this sense, silence is a tool for growth, both personally and professionally. The challenge for many, however, is learning when to remain silent. In a world that often prioritizes extroversion and constant communication, it can feel unnatural or uncomfortable to withhold words. Yet, the ability to master silence requires practice and discipline. It involves understanding that silence is not a weakness, but a strength and intentional choice to withhold judgment, to listen, and to gain clarity before responding. It requires the courage to let the other party speak first, to listen to their concerns without immediately offering a rebuttal or counterargument. By cultivating this skill, we can not only improve our communication, but also enhance our ability to influence and lead. In conclusion, mastering silence is one of the most powerful strategies we can adopt for success. Whether in personal relationships, business negotiations, or leadership roles, silence allows us to listen more effectively, gather insights, and assert control over situations. Machiavelli's teachings remind us that silence, when used strategically, can create power, protecting us from revealing too much and forcing others to expose their intentions. By embracing the art of silence, we can navigate life with greater precision, influence, and confidence, ultimately creating stronger relationships, better decisions, and a more impactful presence. The key is not to fear silence, but to learn how to use it as a tool for success. So, after diving into the power of silence, I hope you now see that it's not just about avoiding words, it's about using silence strategically to understand, influence, and control any situation. Whether in your personal life, business dealings, or even during difficult conversations, silence is an unmatched tool that allows you to gather crucial information, force others to reveal their true intentions, and create powerful opportunities. The next time you're in a conversation, negotiation, or tense situation, try using silence as your weapon. Don't rush to fill the silence. Use it as a moment to observe, listen, and learn. I promise you, the results might surprise you. If you found this video helpful and want more content on how to use silence to your advantage, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, if you really appreciated the content, you can show your support with a super thanks. It goes a long way in helping us continue creating valuable videos for you. I'd love to hear from you. How have you seen silence impact your life or work? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, embrace the power of silence and let it work in your favor.